And we're live. Hey, everyone. This is Lev from Trotec Canada. Welcome, everyone, across the country and around the world. We have Don, James out of BC, Vancouver, and Miguel at our Trotec showroom. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for coming. This is going to be a bigger webinar that we usually do. We mostly deal within Canada, but because of the coronavirus, we wanted to actually help everyone across the world kind of participate in this webinar. I hope everyone's family is safe and everyone around the world is keeping safe, and our best wishes to everyone. If we can get a quick, I guess, sound off on the chat, just sort of say where you're from, like the city and country where you're from, and then I'll kind of read them from. We have Maryland, USA, Italy, Mexico. Just typing them and I'll sound them off. Halifax, Nova Scotia, Poland, Ottawa, Canada, New Hampshire, California, Sutherland, UK, Ireland, Poland, Johannesburg, South Africa, Netherlands, Warsaw, Austria, Poland, Mexico. Whoa, it just keeps going. Dallas, Texas, South Africa, Vancouver Island, Spain, Niagara Falls, Austria, Stouffville, Ontario, Mexico, Brampton, Muskoka, Italy, Aquila, Italy. I'm mispronouncing that. Spain, Pistoria, Italy, BC, Poland, Rome, Mississauga, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, France. Manitoba. Hey, Manitoba.
Exotic places like Winkler, Manitoba. I've been there.
Love Manitoba. St. John's, Newfoundland. Alberta, Cambridge, Poland, UK, Poland. Oh, we got Quebec as well. Italy.
Okay.
Awesome. Mexico. Hey, Mexico. Florida, US. Nelson, BC, Poland. Portugal, awesome. Wellington, Florida, Germany, Italy, India. Oh, Indian USA.
Indiana, probably.
Oh, it's probably Indiana. Yeah.
There's going to be 30 minutes of this, just so you all know.
Yeah, we'll be doing this for the next 30 minutes as all 400 people sound off.
Make sure you get them all.
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll get started. So we hope to have this webinar done within an hour, but because of the amount of people that are here, I'm guessing it'll go to an hour and a half or 2 hours. If you actually click on the link itself after the webinar, you can watch the recording of the webinar. So if you have to go, don't worry about it. I'm just gonna pop up my screen here. So just quickly about this webinar, I know lots of you that registered, already have lasers, had lasers for a number of years. This is a very basics webinar, especially for those that are getting into the engraving business. We're going to go through some tips, about getting started with the engraving business. So if you've already had a laser for a number of years, it might be a bit redundant for you, but we hope to get more webinars done, more advanced webinars for Trotec in the future.
I want to say, Lev, I've shown this presentation to lots of people who are very experienced, and also myself who has run an engraving business in the past, and everybody learns from this thing.
Awesome. No, thank you. By the way, yes, James, you might know the great James from James in the Van. Now he's James in the office.
They do let me in the building once in a while.
So if you're wondering why he's not making videos, it's because he's driving. So definitely email him, send him messages telling him like, hey, when's the next video? It's going to push him to do more. So we're very, very grateful to have him here. And again, he's a great resource because he did have an engraving business for 7 years. So we can ask directly. So we'll also ask you guys, the viewers, to kind of chime in, give us your opinions. I know a lot of people were asking about how to do pricing, and we'll kind of get to that. Anyways, without further ado, before one more final thing, because of the coronavirus, we are offering now web demos. So if you can't physically this is it for Canada. So if you're in another country, you want to ask your local Trotec rep about this, but in Canada, we do offer web demos. So you can watch it. It'll basically be like this, but a private webinar. And we'll go through the software. We'll go through the laser, answer any questions. You guys can watch it live. You can do acrylic, wood, so on and so forth. Anyways, so this is basically our presentation. Again, it's catered to Canada. Well, I'm going to try to have it more of a global, feel to it. So just about Trotec as a company as a whole, it started from Trodat. If you guys are familiar with Trodat stamps, it was a family business out of Austria over 100 years ago, out of Vienna, and they were stamp manufacturers. So a couple of decades ago, maybe 20 years or so, Trodat was looking for laser machines to start engraving rubber stamps. And if anybody that knows anything about lasers, rubber is probably the most difficult material to work with, mainly because there's dust particles flying everywhere. So when Trotec was being built, they had that kind of thing in mind where you want to close off all the components. So they decided to basically build their own laser machine, Trotec. So that's where Trotec basically comes from. So you guys can see some stats about us. We're a global brand and a global footprint in many countries in Europe, Asia, Africa, across the world. So if you guys have any questions, definitely put them in the chat as we do this presentation, and then I'll try to kind of interrupt whoever's speaking about this. Okay. So this is our locations in Canada. So we have 4. Just if you guys actually want to see a local office in your area, go to the Trotec website, troteclaser.com, go to the contact page, and then you'll actually see all the locations worldwide, including distributors. So this is our team in Canada. Most teams that have subsidiaries have this kind of breakdown: sales, marketing, techs, consumables. So we have a full kind of in-house team here in Canada. And I guess, Don, if you want to start from this slide, why would you want to start an engraving business?
So there's a lot of reasons why you might look into purchasing a laser. Obviously, we're very fortunate that we get to work with people in a lot of different backgrounds and businesses, working with all different kinds of materials, and obviously some of those things we'll get into shortly. But in terms of why you might want to look at starting your own engraving business, certainly one of the things that you would consider is the opportunity to be your own boss. And
sorry, Don, can you put the mic down? I think is it plugged in properly? Because I'm having a little bit issue hearing you.
Hearing me? Sound
yeah.
Okay?
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. So as I was saying, the opportunity, and I'm sure James will be able to speak to this, but the opportunity to be able to run your own engraving business gives you the chance to do something, hopefully, that you really enjoy doing. And obviously, anyone here at Trotec will tell you about how great it is to be able to work with customers in all different industries and using all different kinds of materials. Every customer who comes through your door with a different engraving challenge is a unique puzzle you get to solve with the laser. And you get to meet people from all walks of life, certainly. There is a creative freedom that comes with having a laser in his materials, so many different projects. And also there is a huge knowledge ceiling. The opportunity to work with certainly Illustrator and design softwares like this to accomplish certain tasks, but then also 3D softwares like AutoCAD, Rhino, things of that nature. Working on a full schedule, of course, anyone who's ever had a small business will tell you the ability to set your own hours is great. And again, sort of tying back around to, if you're doing something you love to do, you're never really working a day in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Don, yeah, sorry, we're just hearing echo. If you could see if you could change the mic setting on that.
I will. Why don't you take the next one and I'll switch the headphones around.
Yeah, so sorry, which slide are you on? Which point?
This one's finished.
This one's finished? Okay. So while Don is fixing that, I'm just going to go through, I guess, the types of products that you can do. If you already have an engraving business, you kind of have an idea of what kind of targets to go after. But this is just some of the general categories. So name badges, picture frames, trophies, gifts, apparel, signage, seals, like for lawyers, for example. It's Delrin seals in that case. model making, glasses, part marking, POP displays, toys, rubber stamps, monuments. One cool thing about the monuments is actually you can do photo engraving on marble and stone, while if you're doing any kind of sandblasting, you can actually cut stencils with the laser for sandblasting. So that's a cool thing. And obviously promo pens, and so lots and lots of stuff like that. Obviously we have tons of videos on our YouTube channel. If you go to the applications playlist, you'll see a lot of these there as well. Somebody was asking about if they can get a copy of the slides. These slides, unfortunately, we can't hand those out. It's part of the demo menu that users in Canada get. They have Canadian pricing for the ROI cases, which we'll talk about. So if there's anything specific you guys would like us to provide, maybe we can do a shorter version of this presentation and provide that. We have a question. You have a brand, but what is the difference with Romark? So Romark, I'm just going to spot there. I mean, James, I don't know if you can kind of answer to that. I mean, what's the difference? Like, our brand is called Trolays. The Trolays plastics. I mean, they're similar to Romark. We manufacture our Trolays plastics in North Carolina by a company called ILC. So we have a lot of, if you're looking for specific colors, specific quantities, you would have to get in touch with your local consumables rep in your local country and discuss. But you can always go to our consumables website for Canada. I'm just going to pop that banner up there. This is the website for Canada. Every country has their own. And if you basically Google Trotec consumables, you'll find the website for your country. Okay, I'm just going to keep going here. So, I mean, if we're talking, Don, how's that sound coming?
I mean, you told me.
No, nothing yet.
You go ahead.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, I mean, if we're looking at what type of materials you can work with, if you guys know the differences between CO2 and fiber, I mean, we're not really going to get into the science of things. But with the CO2 is engraving everything that's basically quote unquote organic, so non-metals. So if you're engraving any kind of plastics, wood, acrylics, paper, that sort of thing. With the fiber laser, it's mostly for metal marking application and then some plastic applications as well. You can see here in the graph. Now the Flex is actually a Trotec trademark, and it basically has both laser sources in one machine. So it has a CO2 laser source and a fiber laser source in one machine, and then you could switch from one another. So I mean, the simplest example is if you're doing a knife with a wooden handle, you can engrave the blade with a fiber, and then you can engrave the handle, the wooden handle, with the CO2 in one job. It takes about 5 seconds to kind of switch from fiber to CO2, and then Trotec sells special flex lenses for those applications as well. Okay. I don't see too many questions so far.
Yeah, Don, we can hear you now. Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Oh.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, Don, do you want to take it from this slide then?
Sure. So looking at starting an engraving business, and again, this might be goes without saying for someone who's already using a laser or perhaps already has a business, but for those of us who are just starting in the business, there's going to be sort of three main things, at least when we're talking to new business owners, that you're going to want to look at. The first thing is obviously what laser machine is going to suit the type of product and the type of work that you intend to do. If you're not really sure about the type of materials, the type of applications you want to do yet, that's certainly something that your Trotec sales rep can help you look at and decide, based on the area you're in, perhaps businesses that you have previous experience with, that sort of thing. But you're going to want to look for a laser machine that's going to be big enough and powerful enough to handle the type of product you'd like to do. In order to work with a Trotec laser, you'll need a computer that has a Windows operating system, or to be able to do Windows within a Mac, like in a boot camp, something of that nature. And then also you'll need some form of graphic software. Part of what's great about working with a Trotec specifically, and we're going to get to show you this in a little bit when we show you a laser demo, but part of what's great about working with a Trotec is the ability to use whatever graphic software you're most comfortable with already, whether it be Illustrator, CorelDRAW, MS Paint, if you like, doesn't really matter. AutoCAD, Rhino, certainly. It just goes to show how flexible the laser is in terms of being able to work again with all those different markets like we were talking about. And then again, wanting to be sort of as customizable and as comfortable for you to start working as possible right from the word go. Just looking at some of these sort of 12, big decision questions that you might want to look at prior to purchasing a laser. Again, we sort of covered off, what type of product, what sort of markets do you intend to cover? Again, that sort of depends for each individual. It's going to be a little bit different. Do you want to run an online store or a bricks and mortar store or a combination of both? Again, each person is going to have a little bit of a different experience, but lean into whatever feels most comfortable for you.
Can I interject 1 sec here, Don? When I was opening my business, I had no real experience, had a little bit of experience in it. And when I started, I was going to do absolutely everything. And I thought, okay, this is going to be great. I can take every single order that comes in. And when I started doing that, it actually became, I don't know, it was overwhelming. And then I never got really good at one thing. And then slowly, I really liked name tags. I mean, everybody's different, but I really started loving name tags. I knew how to do them well. There was a great profit on it. And I started to focus in on one thing. And I ended up firing a whole bunch of customers because of that, which, I mean, they probably didn't like that, but they'll find other suppliers. But what it comes down to is you'll want to do everything because everything looks so cool in this. But when you start to focus in on one specific product, that's when you'll really thrive and you'll take a piece out of that market.
Certainly, I think that's a good point. And part of why I mentioned too, there are certain people who, with customers we've had the opportunity to talk to where perhaps they previously worked in the woodworking industry, and so they have connections who are already doing some woodworking, or they worked in metalworking previously, and so have some connections who might be working with aluminum or titanium or whatever it is. So certainly play off of the strengths that you already have in the area surrounding you and the connections that are surrounding you. Certainly.
Sorry, John, just if you can hold the microphone up, I think, it's just still a bit harder to hear. Sure. Yeah, somebody asked us about about CO2 lasers for anodized aluminum, if they need a Surmark spray or any kind of spray. So no, anodized aluminum is basically one of the few metals that you can do both CO2 and fiber, and you don't need any kind of spray. I just wanted to answer that. What is the minimum computer system required that you recommend? James, what would you say to something like that? What's the software or computer requirements?
If you're spending over $20,000 on a laser, chances are you're going to want to spend a good amount on a computer. I say try to get the best computer you can afford. If you're leasing a laser, put the computer in with the lease. Get a modern i5 or i7, and an i5 should be fine. CorelDRAW can take up some resources, Adobe Illustrator, AutoCAD, but they're definitely not going to ruin your computer, with their resource hogginess. So what you want to do is just try to get the strongest computer you can afford. I mean, I tell most of my my customers that if they're spending, $1,000 on a computer, that's probably going to be fine for the machine that's going to be running your computer, your laser. Get something great. If you're spending $250 on a used i3 from 2010, chances are you're going to run into a lot of problems. And I find that our techs, when they're running into problems with first-time laser users, and they're saying your something's wrong with the machine, when our techs go in, probably 60% of the time, we're finding that it's the computer that's causing the problems on the laser. Get a very good computer that's going to work well. and you'll be much happier in the end.
I was going to just chime in based on this comment here as well to say that, you know, part of what we have here in the showroom are dedicated computers hooked right to the lasers themselves. So if that computer is going to run mostly just as a driver for the laser, you can do all of your setup work on a separate, you know, design laptop and have something very, very simple just hooked up to the laser if you have that flexibility. If you only have one computer, obviously, as James says, it makes the most sense to get the best you possibly can. But there's also the option to just have a very basic computer with perhaps just the design software and your laser software on it, hooked up, you know, right to the laser, and doesn't need to be anything too particularly special.
Yeah, the biggest juice in terms of RAM and that sort of thing is going to be in your design software. So that's like the job control, the laser software for Trotec doesn't take a lot of RAM or any kind of power for the computer, but it's your computer needs to work well with design software. And Leonardo actually asked if they can use Mac OS. Unfortunately, it has to be a Windows driver to work. I think Make It Zone actually answered that. But yeah, it has to be a Windows driver when you print to job control, at least for the time being now. So a lot of our customers that use Mac, they would use Mac for their design, and then they have a separate computer by the laser for dedicated for the laser. So if that's the thing, you can have a strong Mac and then a mediocre kind of computer laptop for the laser, because that you don't need a whole lot of power just to run the laser itself. Am I right in that, James?
I have seen old computers running Windows 10. They've managed to get Windows 10 running on them. I've seen old computers really foul up the communication side. So I don't like people using something that's made in 2014 or less on your laser. Even if you do have a Gucci Mac, upstairs, downstairs we use Windows on these lasers, and so I like to see at least a fairly modern i5 5th gen or something like this. Just a modern, something made in the last few years is good. And the very, very bargain brand computers, I'm not going to name any names, but the very bargain brand computers are always going to give you some sort of communication error.
That's right. Actually, we had another question. What can Flex do more than other lasers? Only the metal. So yeah, the Flex, basically you can have both the metal and the CO2. So if you're thinking, well, why do I really need a metal engraving machine? Most engraving businesses out there, and again, James, correct me if I'm wrong, they have a CO2 laser. The CO2 lasers are usually more affordable, and they can do a lot more stuff than just metals. But if you're the one person in your region that has both fiber and CO2 laser, you got a leg up from the competition. So you can do the metal tags. And then we have cases specifically for the Flex as well that we can kind of go through. But if you're using a spray to do metal, it takes a lot more work than if you're just putting a metal tag into the machine and press and go. So to have that option, also if some of your customers could be like the military or people that have very specific requests for the depth of engraving. If you're using a spray, it doesn't actually go into the metal. It only anneals. So it just changes the composition of the metal of the spray to have it a black marking on the metal. But if you have customers that require to go deep and engrave the metal, that's why you would need a fiber laser, and that's why essentially you'd need a Flex in that sense. Okay, yeah, lots of great comments, guys. Flex with no spray, yeah, exactly. So Flex, you do not need a spray because you can use a fiber laser. So people are asking about price range for startup of CO2 laser. Unfortunately, we can't give pricing here, especially because every country has their own pricing. So you'd have to contact your local Trotec sales rep and actually talk to them about pricing. Pricing is James, yeah, James in Vancouver. Exactly. In BC, it's James. The pricing is basically, James, again, correct me if I'm wrong, it has to do with the power, the different power configurations, obviously the bed size, so many accessories. It's a really big
job producing a quote for somebody, and what we always want to do is make sure that we're not. A lot of people think that they know they need this specific machine, and we come there and we say, you know what, you don't need such a big nasty machine. We really assess as consultants. We really assess what your needs are, what your requirements are, and because I've been in the industry for 21 years now. I know I can tell really quickly once I do a site visit at your shop what you actually need. So we consult more than we try to just take orders. A lot of people think they know what they need, but when it gets down to it, we really can assess what exactly you need. And so this is why pricing is based on a per person. We don't know what configuration you're going to need until we meet you.
Yeah, that's right. Guys, lots of great questions. I'm going to take a couple more, then we have to move forward. James, do you know this one from Luca? Is there a type of LAN connection in order to have the laser in a room next to it?
There is a way to have your computer in a different room. The computer has to be connected to the laser via USB for now. So what this means is computers are very inexpensive compared to lasers. Have lots of computers. I mean, I don't know, in the last 5-6 years, I've just collected computers and they seem to just keep running. So having 2 computers in your shop is usually not a big deal. So a LAN connection, no, not right now, but there are ways of being able to send the job from the other room to the laser. But what you really want, because the Trotec lasers, we operate the laser with the computer, so it becomes an integral part of the laser itself. So you really want to have the screen and the laser and the computer beside your laser, because it's a plus to have that. And once you see the system's working and see why job control allows you to move the head around and see on the screen where your positioning is of the laser, you'll want your computer right beside it.
Perfect. And then we have another question. Can you cut metal to any degree, or are you limited to marking and engraving? Again, James, I mean, you could chime in on this.
Yeah.
But I mean, we cannot cut metal with the Trotecs at this time. I mean,
that's a short answer. Yes.
Yeah, metal cutters are specific. Lasers are very specific to that application.
Yeah. And
I mean, they require like a lot more wattage. Is that correct to say?
That's true. I mean, we make the conscious decision to not cut metal. Some of our systems have plenty of power. We have enough power that we could cut metal with them, especially our 200 and 400 watt lasers. We could, but we don't have the other infrastructure, say the compressed air or the extraction needed for cutting metal in, say, the SP2000 or the SP1500. You do need compressed air. Really, that's what's cutting. You're using the laser for turning the metal into slag, and you're using compressed air to push that slag out, and that's basically what's cutting is the compressed air. So we make the conscious decision not to. We let the metal cutting people cut metal, because when you're cutting metal and then you want to go switch to something very fine like acrylic or some nice plastics or glass or stuff like this, we get the metal dust and the metal filings in everywhere, and it's impossible to get away from it. You can clean and clean and clean, and your acrylic becomes totally fouled and scratched by the metal dust. So we don't do that. There are certain applications where very thin metal can be scored to a point, but you're going to have to talk directly with your consultant about which ones of our products can possibly do that. I couldn't put a blanket statement saying we do cut metal. We just say we don't. That's the short answer.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so we're just going to go, we're going to keep going with the presentation a little bit more, and then we'll try to answer as many questions, hopefully at the end there. Sorry, one sec. I just had
we should have another one of these that's just a global question and answer period. Yeah.
We're planning to do something like that for like a live stream session like a weekly live stream. So that just watch out for that one in the future, where it'll be Q&A. It'll be just, doing some projects on the laser, and then people can chime in and ask questions.
Jam session.
Yes, laser jam session. So Don, go ahead if you want to go with this slide then.
Certainly. So like I said, maybe we'll pick up the speed a little bit. So sort of looping back to some of the things we were discussing earlier, these are just a lot of the questions you want to ask when it comes to choosing the right laser. Let's suppose it's a Trotec. What are the things you should consider? Because as James said, we oftentimes talk to customers who have a particular laser in mind, but we may be able to suggest one that we think might be a better fit for the type of application you're doing, perhaps a smaller or larger laser, whatever it might be. But as a first go-to, one thing you're going to want to consider obviously is the bed size. So both in terms of how big the applications you want to do are, and then also, as we'll get into when we get into some sort of ROI and costing further down, how can you maximize the speed of your production? What power level, as James was sort of speaking to earlier as well, what power level is going to be ideal for specifically the type of application you'd like to do. In terms of, quality, that's one thing where coming in for a demonstration or doing a web demonstration can be really, really great, especially if you have the opportunity to work with your materials that you intend to work with and your files. We can show you at very least, the sort of quality that we expect to achieve with the Trotec laser. Durability, again, is something that we really take pride in between the technical support and repairs that we have for our machines, as well as, how long we expect our tubes to last, the construction of the machine, all that stuff. Certainly a big one to consider, because we understand that lasers represent an investment, right? So we want to be sure, you're getting a quality product all the way. As we were sort of briefly discussing in our question and answer period, in terms of applications, what type of laser do you need? Is it going to be a CO2? Is it going to be a fiber? Is it going to be a flex? One thing to keep in mind certainly is that if you decide to start with a CO2 as, perhaps for the flexibility or for price, whatever it might be, you can always add the fiber laser at a later date. So if it was something where a really great contract came across your desk and you had somebody who wanted to do Yeti bottles or whatever it was, you can upgrade the fiber at any time and add sort of that flex capability without necessarily having to do it right from the word go. Ease of use is another great one that we can talk about in a demonstration. Getting to see a live demo of the laser gives you a chance to see not just how it works, but how it would work specifically for you. Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel like something you would be able to manage given your level of sort of computer savvy?
Yeah, can I just quickly say about ease of use?
Of course, please.
I've actually worked with 3D printers, with UV printers, with CNC machines. The job control is very, very, very user focused. So if you're just starting out with a laser, ask for a web demo. Look at our webinar for job control on our YouTube channel. Just type in job control webinar on YouTube, and you'll have a 1-hour video of the basics of job control. Very, very, very user friendly. Also, Michelle asked, do you have file with settings for your different products? So in job control, we have a full database of manufactured suggested settings for your laser for specific products. It's a huge database. Then we also have on YouTube, if you type in Trotec laser settings, there's a half-hour video of how you can find your own laser settings by using these kind of data matrices. Now, this is like a last resort. We would recommend to start with the settings that we provided, and then if you're not kind of happy with it or it's something different from what you wanted, you can go to that video and see how to find out your own settings that you want.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Don, go ahead.
Back up your settings. Back them up weekly. And there's a way to just save them to a place, save them to the cloud, save them to a thumb drive, save them to your mom's computer. Save them because you can work for years on laser settings, and if your computer blows up, you're gonna wish you had them.
100%. And just really quickly, the last point here, sort of tying back to what Lev was saying about the YouTube channel, that's a layer of support in the way that sort of Trotec tries to be helpful and be there for you. Certainly, obviously, as I sort of spoke to a little bit earlier, we have a great tech support team that we have great faith in. They're super, super helpful, wonderful ambassadors for the brand, but we try to have support for you on every level in terms of if you have questions about applications, technical support, whatever it might be.
Yeah, we have Trotec support locally. Most
Yes.
Trotec subsidiaries have techs in their local countries, so it's much easier if you're dealing with somebody like an international brand that you don't have local support. You have to call that office and try to get support that way. So we do offer local support. As part of that support, we have the Trotec Academy, which actually Miguel runs. So if you require any additional training, we offer paid training and free new user training as well, that we do basically like this for anywhere in Canada. Yeah, Don, I think we'll go to the next slide then. So I can kind of quickly talk about, how do I market my engraving business? So again, we did a webinar with Thomas Weinberger, who's an awesome guy from Austria, from our Trotec team. And we spent an hour and a half just going through these steps, how to market the engraving business. So it's kind of ranked by importance. So obviously, the more people know you and talk about you, especially if you're in more local areas, the more customers that are happy with the products they get from you, the more they'll give you additional business. Obviously, the second most important thing is a website. Make sure that you have a professional website. You have some kind of presence online. There's a bunch of free tools to make free websites like Wix.com, or you can obviously hire a web designer to make a website for you. Google My Local Business is free and it's easy to use. There's tons and tons of stuff online on how to get your business on Google My Local Business, because usually in the search engine results pages, when somebody types in, laser engraving Toronto, for example, the first things that would pop up would be the Google Maps and the Google Local Businesses. So very, very important. If you have additional money to spend on ads, use Google Ads in the beginning. And then you guys can look at all the other ones that we have: email marketing, trade shows, samples, that sort of thing. So my suggestion, watch that webinar. And sorry, is it possible to get a link to the marketing webinar? I can see if I can provide it in the chat. So give me a couple of seconds and then we'll just go to the next slide for now. I guess this is an important one that maybe James can kind of talk to. And a lot of people asked, how do I price my engraving jobs? So before James can kind of get started, if you guys have some ideas, those of you that have lasers, just share your stories about how you got through that first hurdle of finding out what price should I put for my customers. James, can you talk more about that while I look for the link?
Yeah, it's pricing your job is way harder than learning how to use the laser itself. There's lots of people who go gung-ho with using the laser, and then they sit down in front of their telephone and wait for the first call to come up. And when it does, they say, well, how much for this? And there's a big blank stare. There's other people who figure out that, the material costs 15 cents. The name tag backing cost 18 cents. And so I'm going to sell it for $1 and I'm going to make lots of money, and find out that they're working all night because they get too much work and they're not making any money. So we have to figure out what your local market will bear. Some local markets, we have a lot of competition. Some local markets have zero competition. Find out what everybody else is charging. Everybody's doing this. This is something that happens all the time. But how I used to charge jobs is on a per time, per minute basis. So I would figure out how, and Job Control allows you to do this. If you pull up, if you're making 20 name tags, you don't have to get the design ready, just blocks, a block for the logo, a block for the name, and a cut line. And you put 20 of those up on Job Control, there is a section that tells you how long it's going to take to engrave and cut. It's pretty accurate. And so you can get a very good idea of how many minutes or hours the engraving job is going to be. So if these 20 name tags are going to take, say, 9 minutes to engrave and cut, you'll know that this is how much time you're going to spend on the laser. You have a big question mark answered right there. Now you need a setup charge. You're going to have to put some kind of setup charge in. Now there's people who don't like setup charges, and I never used to like them, but I find they are necessary. If you're buying one name tag, you're coming to me for one custom name tag. I still got to digitize your logo. I still got to make sure your name is spelt right. I still got to pick colors. We still got to chat on the phone. All this stuff takes time. And that setup charge often covers these things. If there's advanced art, like you're having to really digitize a terrible logo, or you're going to have to create a logo, then we're going to have to charge art on top of that. And I can't tell you what to charge for any of these things, but you're going to want to charge for art. You're going to want a setup charge. You're going to want to charge for engraving time, and you're going to want to charge for materials. Now, the materials that you buy from us, it's very easy. You look in the catalog, you take that, maybe you're timesing the material times 3, just so that if you screw up the material, you got another shot, and you're still making money on the material itself too. So that's sort of how I did it. It's by time, adding time for art, adding time for engraving, putting a setup charge so that ordering just one tag is actually a hassle. If you go to somewhere like Staples, they're going to charge, I don't know how much, $25 or $30 for one name tag, and then you go again and you order 10 name tags. Well, it's still going to be $30 per name tag. So a local engraving business can charge one setup and then X amount for each name tag.
Yeah, perfect. We have a question here. If a Trotec cuts faster than others, we should stay lower with the price. About the time, not quality. James, what do you think?
I say you're spending money on a professional laser. This is not a hobby laser like something maybe made in China. This is a professional laser. It's going to go faster than those other ones, and you've paid the money to make sure your production goes faster. You're going to charge the same as the slow guys. You're just going to make twice as much product, and that's how it has to be. If we start cutting our dollars down because we have, I can go faster, so I feel criminal for charging the same. Don't do that. You can charge more because you've invested in a better piece of equipment.
Exactly. Somebody asked before, I'm just trying to find that question here. Quote on a Rayjet, but it doesn't. Don't see it on the Trotec website. So Rayjet has their own website. If you Google Rayjet, you will see it on. We have the branding separately, and it's kind of a separate machine for all intents and purposes.
I added it in the chat as well. It's rayjetlaser.com.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now I know questions keep coming, and then we'll spend more time going through a lot of these at the end. We just want to get through as much of the presentation as possible. So just a quick thing about where does Trotec help? And this is for Canada. Each country has their own kind of platforms, trainings, programs, marketing, that sort of thing. So in terms of what Canada provides, we provide a USB starter kit. We provide a starter kit with each laser that you buy, and it's actually 13 pieces of quarter sheets, which is basically 12 by 24 sheets. It has wood, acrylic, plastics, all sorts of things to help you get started. We provide a USB key. There's actually more on the virtual USB key, including photos, like if you want to put photos in your business of existing applications that you could do. All the artwork files are there, so 90% of the stuff on our YouTube channel, you can get artwork files for that if you're a Trotec customer. We have 86-page engraver's guide, so it's basically just help you get started talking about all the features, lenses, tables, job control, that sort of thing. It's an engraver's guide that you get. The 35-page demo menu, which is basically kind of this presentation. So we'll show you an ROI case. But that demo menu has 13 ROI cases, all based on your materials in the starter kit. So it has an ROI case for the acrylic, for the wood, et cetera, et cetera. What we provide, obviously, is these kind of things, seminars and webinars. We have more things in the works to make exclusive premium webinars for Trotec customers, focusing on very specific things like, hinge making, inlaying, acrylic, all that sort of stuff. We offer, like I mentioned before, one-on-one paid training with the Academy. It says 5 technicians. We already have actually 6 technicians across Canada, consumable parts and accessories, marketing collateral. So if you need binders or the fan decks for your customers. So a customer comes in, they want a sign, you can show them a fan deck of all the colors that you can get. That's also available. Most of the fan decks and the binders are available at different countries as well. And yeah, YouTube channel, obviously. So, okay. So, okay, we're going to go into the demonstration part of this seminar. So here are the 13 cases that you have. And we're going to click on the name badges. So the name badges, we don't want to run the laser for the entire time. So I'm going to kind of give it to Miguel. Oh, sorry, one sec. In addition to making money on the laser, can you tell us how job control affects the speed of working with the machine, and how can you earn more money with this vision system?
I can chat to that if you'd like.
Yeah.
With the vision system, it doesn't make the machine any faster, but what it does is it cuts down labor. If you're a sign company that's usually cutting out profiles of things, and then you're printing out profiles of things on some other kind of medium, and you're laying them on top, trying to get these things perfectly laid out. Pre-printed material, pre-printed name tags on a UV printer, things that have to have a cut and a print at the same time. What you're going to do is, instead of trying to cut them and then get them perfectly in little jigs and having somebody lay the colors on top, what we're going to do is we're just going to print with little registration points all around the part. And what the camera does is it reads these registration points, and then it engraves and cut, or not engraves, but then it cuts around your object to perfectly cut out, just like what we see here. See those little dots there? Those are the registration points that the vision camera reads. And then it would cut around all those little laser shapes to make sure that we are perfectly on point with no bleed. You don't require bleed when we're cutting with a vision camera. Whereas if you're just trying to set things up normally, you're going to need a little bit of bleed, because just in case you go off the line by 0.5 millimeter, you're going to see it. So with the vision camera, the part can be distorted, it can be scaled up, it can be scaled down. The vision system is still going to cut perfectly around your part.
Yeah, this is actually a good question. Please provide a range for Canada in engraving hour. So, James, I guess, what per hour would you give customers when, if you're estimating a job that's like 3 hours, what would you quote it on per hour?
It's very tough. I've done jobs that were $60 an hour because I was running the job 7 hours a day for 25 days, and I didn't have to go look for new business. I just was able to just engrave all day long, same stuff. I've done jobs where it was $488 an hour because I was making name tags, and it was maybe 2 hours and for this name tag, and when I calculated how much I made in those exact 2 hours, it was up to $1,000. And so it's really impossible to say this is how much you should charge. It's impossible. But what I like to see is anywhere between $100 and $150 an hour as a general rule. I like to start there and then see what the competition's doing. And if you have to come down a little bit, you have to come down. If you're way too low, please go back up. What we want is a really rich industry here. Undercutting is not the way to go. Get your time, get your lead time up. Make sure that you're answering every single email that somebody is sending you. If you're answering all the emails, you're taking all the phone calls, you're doing what you say, and your lead time is not outrageous, people won't care what they're spending with you. They'll just keep coming back.
Yeah, remember, Trotec is a premium industrial laser machine. I mean, for quality purposes, I mean, you could charge a premium for the quality that it takes. And actually, that kind of, you mentioned name tags. I think we'll actually. I'm just gonna pop this open here. So this is one of our ROI cases that we're kind of talking about. So Miguel will show you this in a minute. Miguel, if you want to share your screen for the file, the Corel Draw.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man. So just to give you kind of a quick background, Don, or actually, do you want to discuss this? What we did here for this job?
Sure, if you'd like, no problem. So again, don't take any of these numbers necessarily as gospel, but they are just sort of a basic breakdown to show you a case that we run. We have a typical job here, like say a name badge that can sort of be calculated in two different ways. This is using a Trotec, I think it's a 300, right? In this particular case, a 300.
Oh, this is a 360, sorry.
360, okay. So the reason that matters is we've sort of broken it down based on, if you were to do just one badge on the left, and if you were to do an entire table or a quarter sheet of badges, basically.
Yeah, sorry. So this is for like a quarter sheet is a Speedy 100. So that's like our smallest production laser machine. The Rayjet is kind of like our hobbyist laser machine, but for production application, we start with the Speedy 100 at a 12 by 24.
Exactly, it's a standard sort of industry size that you would very often see. But the reason some of that matters as well is sort of, as you can see here in the breakdown of the sort of engraving cut times, where on the left you can complete this one name badge in just over a minute 20 seconds. On the right, you are taking about 43 minutes, but you're able to do 64 badges. So you're doing each badge in less time. Realistically, again, this factors back to sort of what James was talking about when it comes to pricing out the job. If somebody wants to do a larger bulk order, of course, that's going to come into the way that you calculate out your time on your engraving and the costing you want to do.
But James, can you, sorry to interrupt, John.
Please.
James, can you explain why the cut time, the engrave time for more pieces will be lower than if you're just doing one?
Absolutely. It's very simple. As we go across the laser bed, that laser has the ability to accelerate, go full speed, and then decelerate as it comes down the bed. If we're doing one tag, we are accelerating and immediately decelerating. So what this means is that we're never getting up to our 140 or 165 inches per second. We're getting up to, 60 inches per second and back down again. When we have a full bed, we go up, we're running at 165 inches per second, and then we decelerate, accelerate back 165 inches per second and back down again. So the more we have on a long width on our x-axis, the faster we're going to produce those. So if we had a whole bunch of them on a column on a y-axis, they would all be 1 minute and 15 seconds or whatever was on your slide there. But if we had those same 20 across the x-axis, then they're going to be 40 seconds each. So it's about machine acceleration and deceleration.
And certainly another reason why sometimes the flex can be a great option for customers, if it gives you the opportunity to stack your bed with more different types of jobs. Again, it just, as James is sort of saying, it gives you more opportunity to sort of stack things left to right and appreciate that added acceleration that you might have.
Okay, so before we get into the actual ROI breakdown, I think, Miguel, if you want to do a quick demo for this name tag, and we're using Trolley's Metallics.
Yes, absolutely. And also we're using a Speedy 400 Flex, right? So it's going to be a little bit faster than what appears in the ROI breakdown, right? I'm going to finish up focusing this. I'm going to use the focus tool, the laser head here. Now the material is focused. I'll move to where I want to position my job. Close it down. This is also on. It's right here next to the machine. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a Quattro, right? Let's see here. Let's see if this is a good position. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going back to the file. The black part will be for engraving, and the red line would be for cutting. You can use any vector-based graphic software for your job control, right? I'm using Corel, but you can use Adobe Illustrator or Inkscape or AutoCAD or anything that you prefer. Okay? And I'm going to file, print. I'm going to make sure that my printer driver settings are okay.
And again, guys, if you watch the job control webinar, we go through this in much greater detail. But right now, we just want to give you guys a very brief kind of demo on the laser.
Yeah, this is our material database on job control. It's pretty easy to use.
Miguel, can you just stop right there for a second?
Sure.
So you guys can see somebody asked about the material settings. So everything you see on the left-hand side is recommended settings by Trotec for different materials. So fabric, leather, plastics, and then you can create your own groups, as many as you want as well.
Exactly, and you can choose the flex if you're going to engrave CO2, engrave fibers, and cut the same thing. Or if you want a positioning or registration mark if you're using the vision camera, right? In this case, everything's set up here. And make sure that the Z offset is correct as well. And hit OK, and send the job to job control, right? Now, I'm going back to job control, and this is our job control. I'm gonna click and drag. It's pretty easy to use. I'm gonna click and drag to the crosshair.
Just Miguel, quickly for those guys that have never seen this before. So that white space is the virtual table of the physical table of the Speedy 400 Trotec. So Miguel is basically just dragging that. That crosshair is where the laser point is actually stationed at. So he's just dragging it. Sorry, Miguel, you can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can position your job by where the laser point is. So I just dragged from the job list to the table. And I can also check if the vectors are correct here. You click this little eye here, make sure that everything is right. I can update my time, make sure that the time for the job is also correct. So it's going to take 1 minute and 16 seconds to engrave and 4 seconds to cut one, right? And as James said, like if you're doing more, the engraving part will be extra fast.
Sorry, Miguel. James, maybe you can answer that as well. Southern Design asks, how do you make sure that the time shown on job control is accurate?
You can't. That's the short answer. No, it's not a science. It's based on algorithms on our print driver, your speed and power, things like this. It's not exactly accurate. It's within seconds. I mean, if for a quoting purposes, it's fantastic. But it's not the exact time. I always look at the time it was supposed to be and the time it is. Sometimes it's many seconds less. Sometimes it's many seconds more. It all depends on which machine you're using too. So the faster speeds, higher speeds tend to be a little bit off. The slower speeds tend to be a little more accurate. But all in all, use it as a guide. If you're betting your life on it, well, I wouldn't use that.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can see the real time here. It's going to have a clock. It's going to run with your job, and at the end, it will give you the real time, right? So you can have a good measurement. All right, should I run it?
1 second. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to click ready. The job will start to run.
And if you could put the camera just a little bit on the right-hand side so we can see it perfectly. Awesome. So we're going to try to take some questions here while it's engraving. Can you cut vinyl records? No, you cannot. No. Vinyl records has the PVC. James, do you want to explain why people don't want to be cutting or engraving PVC?
Okay, first of all, make sure that the record you're cutting actually is made of PVC. Some are not. The other thing is that PVC has polyvinyl chloride, and the chloride part of PVC is what happens. Is the bad part. And what happens is that high heat, high energy on PVC releases the chlorine in the form of a chlorine gas. As mixes with the moisture in the air, and it turns into hydrochloric acid gas. Hydrochloric acid gas is not good. So what it's not good for is it's not good for basically anything that your laser's made of, first of all. Then it's not good for all the parts of your suction system. Then it's really not good for the fan parts that are actually blowing it. Every one of these parts is going to start to break down over time with hydrochloric acid gas. This is a problem because obviously your laser is going to wear out very, very soon. All the parts, even the rubber parts, even the lenses, even the stainless steel parts start to rust. I've seen there are people who use it for cutting PVC, and they know that they're not supposed to. We very much tell them. They say it's not under warranty, but they don't care. They cut it anyway. Their machine might last, I don't know how long, but they're making enough money with it that they just buy a new machine every year or every couple of years.
I just want to add, regarding PVC, first of all Trotec materials, everything we sell globally does not have any kind of PVC in it. It's completely laser safe. If you're buying anything, sorry, I'm just going to mute. Oh, thanks, Miguel. If you're buying anything that you're not sure, if you're not buying it from Trotec and you're not sure what the composition of it is, make sure to ask the manufacturer for an MSDS sheet, which is a material safety data sheet, and then it'll say which kind of elements it contains. So PVC. If you're processing something and it smells really clean, or it smells like the inside of a Subway restaurant, stop producing it. It's probably PVC. If it smells like a swimming pool, if it smells like chlorine, if it smells like bleach, don't produce it. It's going to be PVC. Perfect. And then we got a great question from Amy. So in Canada, we do sell starter kits. They're about, I think, $199 as far as I know. Different countries have different starter kits, and I'm not sure if they sell them or not. So just confirm with your local Trotec branch about the starter kits. Is it possible to use Vision system to engrave example name on UV print? Okay, that's a good question. I guess they're asking if we can engrave with the Vision camera system. So the quick answer is no. You can cut with the Vision camera system, but if you split the job in two, so you can basically, I don't know, James, if you've ever done it, but you can raster engrave it first before actually having the camera go through every dot and cut it. Is that possible?
Yeah, there are some UV printers that can register to things that are already on your part. So if you engrave the names first with registration marks, you engrave the little registration mark dots first before you cut, before you UV print. Put it in your UV printer. Place your print on that. Then bring it out, and now the Vision camera is going to read the dots that you've engraved, and then it'll cut. So yeah, it's sort of a three-part thing. Perfect.
Sorry, Don, I'm just gonna wait for a second for questions. Miguel, can you show that the actual application?
Yep, absolutely.
In front of the camera.
So
again, this is Trolleys Metallics. This is a plastic that looks like metals. A lot of people use it, sign makers.
Trophies.
Yeah. So you can see there, and then you would put a magnet on the back. You would put a pin. Again, in Canada, we sell all that stuff as well. The accessories for these kind of pins. When you're working with this kind of plastic, I don't want to go into the world of out of focus, but we actually went a little bit out of focus on this job to make the engraving blacker. Thanks, Miguel. That's awesome.
Yep.
We're gonna just go through. Sorry, one sec. I just want to go through. There we go. The ROI kind of case breakdown. I'm not sure why it's not showing the entire thing, but anyways, that's fine. Don, do you want to kind of talk about the ROI? This is specifically for this badge.
That's right. And it's, again, not necessarily set in stone, but it is just sort of a general rubric we've used based on, chats with customers. And as James was sort of describing, each job is going to be perhaps a little bit different. In this case, though, we've sort of broken it down again along those same setup as before. So a single badge versus a quarter sheet of badges, 64 badges. In both cases, we're charging a setup fee of $25. But we have a retail price that's slightly different. On the left, we're charging a retail price of $377. So you're looking at a total revenue of $28.77 for yourself. On the right, we're charging only $217.15, which is less than $377 per badge. But that's because we're giving a 10% break in price to the customer based on doing such a large quantity. Essentially, it serves to amortize out the cost of your setup fee or to cover the cost of the setup fee for your customer.
James, how often would you give quantity breaks to customers?
If they're buying a lot of them, so I'll base it on time. It has to make sense you have to make money. You have to make a lot of money. Name tags are very, very lucrative. So if you are cutting too much back, then you're not making enough money. But if you're charging too much, maybe they're going to look and think that they're spending too much. I once did a job. It was 18,000 name tags for an entire health authority, and I was still making $344 an hour during that, and then that they were paying probably the least that I had ever charged to anybody. So on 18,000 name tags, I'm going to bring my cost down to a point where I'm making money, but I'm sure that my laser is going to run for 3 weeks.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Don, go ahead. Just sorry, this is actually a good question. I just wanted to bring in before we go into costs. What sorts of laser? No, sorry, not not this one. I just saw a good one.
Lifespan of the laser.
Yeah, that's the one. You read my mind. So, James, what is the lifespan of a laser tube? And if you can give us glass, metal, and ceramic laser.
Yeah, it's differing all the time. It's differing all the time. So if you are looking at, say, a glass tube, I've seen them last as little as 4 months. I've seen them last as long as 2.5 years. But glass tubes, a lot of people say 10 months. I don't have a ton of experience with glass tubes. I have a Chinese machine in the back here that I show customers, and the tube no longer functions. I don't know when that happened, but so the glass tubes tend to leak a little more than the other tubes. Then there's the metal tubes, which they have a very high quality, fast on and off. They work very, very well, and I always give them about a 5-year lifespan on our metal tubes, because we do have some machines with metal tubes, our low wattage ones. And I give them 5 years. Sometimes in optimal conditions, you can have 7 years. And then there's the ceramic tubes, where we have a much longer lifespan than that. And it really comes down to how you're treating your tube. So if you are in a garage and it gets down to -12, and then it gets up to 40 degrees in the summer, and there's a big temperature fluctuation, you're going to have trouble with a tube, no matter if you have a ceramic tube, a metal tube, or a glass tube. You have to keep those temperatures within the range of where we tell you to. If it does get cold, go put a little heater bead behind your machine, kind of close to where the tube is. Keep that temperature steady, and your tube is going to last much, much longer.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the reasons, Trotec is on the higher end of lasers in terms of pricing, but that is why we, our ceramic tubes, they last a lot longer. So if you're looking for high production, yeah, go ahead, James.
There's a question that says in years or in hours. A lot of people think that the CO2 inside of your laser tube, and I guess we can cover up maybe some of the myths here, is they think that the CO2 inside the laser tube is being used up. So we have a certain life, how many hours until the CO2 is gone. That's not the case. If I just break down a lifetime worth of science into a couple of sentences, we're using radio waves to blast CO2 particles. The electrons around the CO2 particle jumps to a higher state, crashes back down. When it crashes back down, it puts pressure on the atom to shoot a light photon out of the atom. Boom. Who knows how this works? But it shoots it out. And so what we're doing is we're energizing CO2, and it's just pumping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, sending out these light photons. Thank you. We're playing accordion now. We're sending out these light photons, but we're not using the CO2 up. The reason that your tube may fail is because for some reason, somehow, the CO2 gas inside your tube has dropped because of leakage. There may have been a crack in the weld of a metal tube or in the seals of a glass tube. Awesome. And yes, the tube is replaceable on all laser machines.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry, Don. We'll get through all the questions afterwards. Just want to go through the presentation, and then we'll try to answer as many as possible, so people can leave afterwards if they need to go. Don, if you want to start talking about the, I think we left off at costs. Yeah. Yeah.
So on the opposite side of our revenue, so again, just really quickly to finish off the revenue side, we project a total revenue for the single tag of $28.77, and the total revenue for 64 units, given our 10% quantity break, of $242 roughly. Looking at the costing for yourself, a quarter sheet, I mean, either way you're paying for a quarter sheet. That's the smallest you're going to be able to purchase from us, of the Trolleys Metallics in this case. But obviously, if you're only doing a single tag, you're only using 1/64 of it. So a quarter sheet at roughly $17 divided by 64 is about a 27-cent cost.
Sorry, just a quick comment about the price. So that price is again, it's Canadian, and it's likely different than, this is probably the suggested retail price.
Yes.
For us in Canada. So if you're buying plastics, if you're buying this material, the price is probably going to be different, probably going to be lower. So this is just a rough kind of MSRP of the price. So, and obviously if you guys watch this video a year from now, the price could be totally different. So this is more for example purposes, and again, in Canadian dollars. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, go ahead.
Loonies and toonies, yeah. So projecting a cost for 1/64 of the sheet of about 27 cents, and then obviously again the same quarter sheet on the right, just about $17, roughly $16.98. If you were paying somebody $15 an hour to do your setup, on the left you're talking perhaps a 2-minute setup, so 50 cents there in total. Same on the right. And then in terms of your engraving cut time, as we were sort of talking about before, if it's going to cost you roughly about $100 an hour in opportunity time. So what we mean there is to sort of say, you could be making $100 an hour doing anything. So if you were to spend, a minute 19 of that $100 an hour here, that's costing you $2.19 in opportunity time. Or on the right, if you're spending 43 minutes out of that potential $100 an hour, it's charging you roughly about $72.
That includes opportunity and the actual price, like the average
of running the laser
you would charge. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Thank you. So a total cost on the left of $296, and then a total cost on the right of $89.45. So we're estimating a gross profit for the single name tag of roughly about $26, $25.81, and then a gross profit of doing the entire quarter sheet, the 64 tags, of $152.70. And again, on that right side, don't forget each individual tag is actually being created more quickly than the one on the left. So, if you can optimize wherever possible, it's always a great idea.
Awesome. We had another case for you guys, but because we're still stressing, we're going to go to the next section, which is the final section. And then we can answer questions and maybe do more engraving afterwards.
Yeah. If I may, really, really quickly, just to touch back on one thing you mentioned earlier, if you were to purchase a laser, this is one of the sort of ROI cases that you would see in the demo menu that would come with the starter kit. So you can go through these at your leisure with a Trotec laser and check out all the different ROI breakdowns.
Yeah, people keep asking us for slides. Guys, unfortunately, we can't provide slides unless you're a Trotec laser customer. Because this is specifically for the Trotec laser, and the pricing is based on Trotec laser. So if you're a Trotec laser customer in Canada, we can send you these slides. Just send us an email at youtube@troteclaser.ca, and we'll be happy to share the slides with you or send you a full demo menu. So just this is the other. Oops, that's not the cork. We wanted to do this cork application with you guys as well, so we'll do that afterwards. So right now we're actually going to go into market segments, which is basically our final kind of discussion and slide that we want to go to. So a lot of people ask, when I started my engraving business, who do I target? James made a great point. He was kind of overwhelmed. There's too much to target. And we're going to go through maybe 12 or 13 different markets that we recommend for general engravers to target. Starting with building construction. I don't know, James, if you've ever actually done anything for building construction. You can see the video here. It's a Trolleys reverse washroom sign that we did a couple of years back. Go ahead, James.
Well, it's a great way to try to build your business if you're interested in signs right off the bat. I don't know about other places in the world, but I know around Vancouver, all the construction companies that are building, buildings, hospitals, apartment buildings, hotels, these kinds of things, you can go to their construction company headquarters and you can get yourself the blueprints for a construction project that's coming up. They will give them to you freely. You just sign up for them. They give you the blueprints. You take the blueprints home. Now you're going to figure out all your wayfinding signage. And there's lots of websites and books that you can buy to figure out what wayfinding is. And this is door names. This is arrows pointing places. This is corridor signs coming out. This is, your lobby signage, all this stuff. You figure out what signage is going to be needed. You make a breakdown of how much you think it's going to cost. And then you provide them with a one-pager quotation that they provide you the blank, usually a one-page quotation on what you think you can do this job for. And so there'll be 10 people all bidding for this same job, but as long as you calculate everything well, you should work in a little more than what you need, just in case there's some signs you didn't think of. And if you get the business, now you have weeks, sometimes months to produce the signs, which is great because you can take your time with them. You can put them in between other engraving jobs. So the construction of new buildings is a really good way of having a very large sign package all in one place.
Sorry. That's great, James. We had a question, I think, that relates to signs and construction. Can you do Braille? So correct me if I'm wrong, James. You can do Braille with the CNC machines. You need a special license in Canada.
And we sell vision engraving machines here in Canada. Some other distributors don't sell rotary engraving or mechanical engraving machines, which is okay. We in Canada like the vision machines, and so if you're in Canada and you're looking to do Braille, give us a call. We can hook you up with a Braille license kit, which hooks up to your CNC machine. It drills the holes into the plastic and then automatically fills those with little plastic or metal beads. And that's how we do the Braille. It's really fast, it's beautiful, and it's becoming the standard way of producing Braille on plastic signs.
We also sell the raster beads. They're available through Trotec. So once you have the license, you can
okay.
them less easily.
Cool.
Perfect. Yeah, just a quick, again, this is for Canada. We have a Stats Canada website that shows great statistics in terms of how many companies are out there for building construction. And this is kind of based on territories. So in Ontario, there's 43,000 building construction companies that you guys can target if you're in Ontario, for example. So next one we have is bars and clubs. James, I don't know if you've ever, you have, okay.
I have, oh yeah, lots. That was a big part of my business. We had what was called bar watch back in when we had the Olympics here in Vancouver. And bar watch, because they increased the hours that the bars were open, the government really wanted a tight sort of look on who was where. So everybody in every bar around Vancouver had to wear a name tag. I think it's still the case. And these name tags didn't even have to say names. They could say numbers. A lot of people just like numbers on their tag. And so we produced a ton of name tags for clubs and bars. Every club and bar had to use one. if they were part of bar watch. So I had one laser completely busy just making name tags for clubs and bars.
Awesome. Yeah, some more stats and stuff you guys can do: coasters, signs, glasses, bottle engraving. We've actually partnered in the past with the people like Bacardi. One of our customers, you guys saw the YouTube video, is JP Weiser's very, very, very good Canadian whiskey out of Windsor, Ontario. We actually just launched a video for a micro distillery in Cochrane, Alberta. If you guys saw that video, they do cool gin, vodka, and that sort of thing. So great stuff you guys can do for bars and the people that provide bars with alcohol. Electrical contractors. I don't know, James, if you've done any, kind of tags for electricians or any kind of wire labels or anything like that. Was that possible?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, especially where there's oil and gas, and there's a lot of construction for outdoor buildings. So this is like refineries or mining or logging, anywhere where there's construction projects outdoors. Every time a conduit or a electrical wire has to go from inside to outside, it needs to be marked on both sides, so that I'm sure there's a whole bunch of reasons for it, but they have to be marked. And if it's outdoors, it has to be marked in stainless steel. And this is because the stainless steel is not going to wear out from the UV light or the cold or the heat. And so outdoor buildings and things with a lot of electrical and a lot of pipes, tanks, these kinds of things, everything has to be marked with stainless steel. Inside the building, everything has to be marked with plastic markers. Now, this is either a hard plastic label, which is sometimes called a lamicoid, but they will be hard plastic labels for electrical. That is a staple of the electrical contractors. Sometimes on the doors, we'll have what's called a mimic bus, which is basically it's a model of how the circuit works that are put on the doors of some of these electrical enclosures. And then sometimes I have a few people using fiber lasers, which is part of our flex laser machine. Fiber lasers doing what's called core markers. So core markers are little plastic collars that go around a electrical wire. And these core markers can be marked with the fiber laser as well. And it's a lot faster marking them with the fiber laser than with the machine that you're supposed to use them with.
Awesome. Actually, Grumpy Bulldog Design Works asks, we recommend promo blanks from in Canada. So we actually sell a lot of the different promo items, like we sell dog tags, lots and lots of stuff. If you go to our website, the Canadian website for consumables, and go to accessories, you'll see lots and lots of stuff there, like badges, magnets, all that kind of stuff to go along with the plastic engraving application. So again, go to engraving-supplies.ca and to the accessories portion of it. We also sell like the metal tags that you guys saw in that video there. Okay, so moving next, we have funeral homes. Yes, James, again, I'm going to ask you because you're kind of the expert here on all this kind of stuff. But, I mentioned before with the monument makers that you could do, a lot of the monument makers, they have a sandblasting, but sandblasting you can use for letters and numbers. You can't actually do photo engraving with a sandblaster. So actually having a sandblaster and a laser machine, a Trotec laser machine, you can do a photograph and then cut the stencils for the sandblasters. Is that right?
Yeah, with the Speedy, you can cut the rubber stencils that will produce the deep engraving on your stone. And then with the Speedy itself, you're going to be engraving the photograph onto the part. And you can see Mike and Josephine here. They're producing a very, very large monument of my favorite guy, Stompin' Tom. And you can actually produce larger and larger and larger stone features. I've seen ones 14 feet tall. that were produced on one small Speedy 300.
Yeah, and I think one of the premium webinars that we want to do is on this, how to make a huge engraving out of single kind of tablets or slats. So that will be on the to-do list as well. So yeah, we actually have several customers in Canada that do all of these kind of things: jewelry, memorial stones, like memorial homes that have lasers. But lots of memorial homes obviously don't have lasers, so you can contact memorial homes and ask them to have some kind of partnership. James, have you done anything for hotels and motels?
Yeah, name tags, wayfinding signage.
Similar to building construction, I think.
Yes, yeah, very very similar. Except they use a lot of name tags. They always use very high end stuff, so very shiny things, stuff that is durable. They don't use the reusable name tags very often, so they're often doing a lot of turnover on their name tags. Also, parking passes, room keys in some of the more boutique places that don't have the electric keys, that kind of stuff. Desk signs, that kind of thing.
All the promo items that you can imagine. Awesome.
Yeah, of course, the promo stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah, like USB, business cards, stamps. By the way, we also sell metal business cards on our accessories page for that sort of thing. Jewelry stores. I don't know if you've ever dealt with any jewelry stores, James, but I mean, you can do. Like in this video right now, we're actually engraving agate stones that we purchased from Amazon. So you can put the agate actually looks really, really, really nice. It's a crisp white engraving, almost like acrylic for agate stones. And these agate stones already come with a hole at the top, so you can put necklaces and jewelry if you're making your own jewelry, or if you want to outsource the engraving services to jewelry stores. Have you had anything in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, jewelry I've done sort of piecemeal. It wasn't something that I ever did on a large basis, but I have some customers who do jewelry from semi-precious stones to silver stuff using like a flex or a speed marker machine, all the way to like wood jewelry. Wood jewelry is very, very popular because it's so easily customizable. If you break it, you just throw it away and make a new piece. So wooden jewelry is great. I've done stuff on shell and on bone. I mean, it smells terrible when you're engraving it, but at the end, it's really good. So lots of applications for jewelry. And basically, this is where you can get very, very creative. And the more creative you are, the more you can show up your competition. Maybe you're using Etsy or some kind of a marketing website like this. The more creative you can be, and the less you're copying someone else, the more you're going to get, bigger orders, larger orders for that.
Yeah, Daniel actually asked, recommend wood kind for, I guess, the type of wood for different wooden business cards. James, do you know anything? Like our thinnest wood is, I think, 3 mil. We also sell, Don, I don't know if we don't sell it anymore, but we used to sell wood paper, right?
So it was a paper with like a wood sort of.
Yeah, so you can actually glue it on a piece of plastic if you're doing business cards and actually cut the wood. But James, do you know any thin wood that you can recommend for wooden business cards?
Yes. So if you go to your local lumber store, and I'm not talking like a Home Depot or some real corporate place, but you're like a boutique lumber stores. I mean, in BC, we have Windsor plywood. I don't know if you guys have it over there in the East, but you'll go to a store like this that sells like hardwood. They usually sell veneer, and veneer is a very, very thin wood. You're probably looking at like it's definitely less than a millimeter. And so this stuff works really good. It comes in a big roll. You cut it to the size of your laser. You can engrave it. You can cut it. It works great for business cards. It's a little bit thicker than the average business card, but it works really well. And it usually has some kind of a backing on it, which is not always ideal. So if you can find the stuff without the plastic backing, it works a lot better.
Awesome. Okay, we'll answer more questions as we go. Just going to finish these up. James, have you ever kind of touched law firms? Ever did any kind of Delrin?
I haven't myself, but I have customers, especially the people who produce stamps. All the stamp makers out there are always going to be talking with law firms. Law firms use a lot of stamps. They use a lot of seals, which is your what's being produced here. I think it's a Delrin seal.
Yeah, it's so we sell the Delrin as well at Trotec, and every single lawyer in Canada, when they become a lawyer, they have to get a Delrin a seal. So I think those things go for like $1,800 in Canada. Yeah. For lawyers. So we sell the seals themselves, the presses, and the Delrin to make those in Canada. So this is a huge market for you guys for law firms. And of course, all the other stuff that you would do regularly. So promo items, name and desk holders, that sort of thing. Machinery manufacturing, I mean, this is kind of like a whole different ball game for parts. James, I guess this is more for if you have a fiber laser or a flex, you can kind of attract machinery. But some machinery companies have plastic tags as well that they require.
Of course, yeah. I mean, machinery companies usually if they're a machinery manufacturer and they're building enclosures with motors and things like this, they will be using nameplates to kind of show their company logo and maybe the serial number and some of the data that's on the part. So nameplates are a very good way to come into a manufacturer. Once you're in with the manufacturer and you're selling them those, now you can start selling them what's called a legend plate or a push button plate, where it's a square of plastic with a hole in it so that it can go over a push button of a machine. And so you're seeing a lot of these on machines where it says on, off, start, danger, I don't know, temperature. So
yeah,
it's
panels as well, right?
For control panels. So now you're getting into that. So now you've got in there with the nameplates. Now you've got some of their other plastic stuff. Then we can maybe go and mark some of their tools for security. I always thought it would be cool to have a business where you're doing laser tattoos on mechanics tools, so that maybe a lot of mechanics might have tattoos. You want to put those same tattoos on their tools. Would be a cool business.
For sure. Also, PCB boards, the electronic circuit boards. We're actually trying to work with Open Dot. It's a fab lab out of Milan. They do a lot of cool stuff with PCB boards that they showed me a couple of years back. So for PCB boards, we want to kind of have a separate video. A lot of schools, universities, maker spaces, fab labs would use PCB boards. They use the scratch engrave method or the chemical method. I'm not 100% on that. But with the flex, you can actually engrave the copper sheet for the PCB boards for prototyping. Not obviously for mass production, but for prototyping, it's a lot cheaper than a lot of these places send prototyping jobs to factories in China, for example. So that is also a good one. Memberships, organizations, again, real estate, religious organizations. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of places where you guys can go with for trophies, signs, stamps for that. I'm just going to go through these a little bit quicker. Cafes, restaurants, again, very similar to bars. I mean, they're more, if you're looking to do cutlery, dishes, glasses. We actually did a cork menu. If you guys remember, we engraved a sheet of cork on a sheet of acrylic and then cut it like a wine menu. You guys can do very cool menus for that. Obviously, schools, for universities, high schools who are looking to do any kind of outsourcing. Schools is also a great way to partner with. You can offer them awards and trophies, jerseys, and that sort of thing.
Right now, with the STEM program, which is the science, tech, and art. I forget what STEM stands for now. My goodness, somebody remind me. If the school can't purchase a laser for themselves, some of the schools have purchased lasers for themselves, but if they can't, and you'll have to check in your municipality, they will be looking for STEM projects. So this will be maybe robot parts, gears, enclosures, like little boxes, and producing those can be a really nice way of bringing in a little bit of revenue. You'll have to drop your price a little bit for schools because they don't have the budget that industry has, but just know you're doing a great thing for your, oh, thank you, Make It Zone, for getting your parts out there, helping your community at the same time.
Perfect. And you can see for sports there, we were doing an Ali plaque, great Muhammad Ali. Any kind of sport. I know in Canada we have tons and tons of, unfortunately due to the coronavirus, they're not. I mean, they will be back in hopefully in a couple of weeks or months. But every kind of sports league needs trophies, needs any kind of signage, promo items for sports teams. Also, Twill is really, really good stuff to use. We have tons of videos on Twill for back letters of sports jerseys. Obviously, colleges, universities, very similar to schools. And last but not least, we have weddings. So weddings is a huge, huge, huge market. You guys can see we're doing paper invitations in this video. James, did you ever do weddings or?
Yeah, I did my own wedding as well way back in the day. But so some of the things that are really popular, at least in my area, is obviously wine glasses and spirit glasses. Also for place settings, one really cool thing is to get some polished river stones. These are flat, polished, dark colored stones. You engrave the name of the bride and the groom and their little wedding logo. And then on the other side is the name of the person, and you put the person's name up on each place setting. It's a very inexpensive and beautiful little keepsake for the wedding. And it looks good sitting on the table. You can be producing candle holders out of all sorts of different types of materials, just with the wedding sort of theme and logo. You can be producing placemats out of even cardboard I've seen that look good. Cake toppers are huge. Your picture frames are fantastic. I mean, if you start to look at weddings and go to wedding websites, go to some weddings. Maybe you can crash some weddings. That'd be fun. Go in there and start to look at what the people are using, and what can I produce with that. And there are so many possible things. Paper place settings, just a piece of paper cut in with the wedding logo or the name. It's quick, it's fast, it's easy, and it looks fantastic.
Awesome. I mean, that kind of covers our portion of the presentation. So now we're just going to go through a lot of the questions that were asked. We're just over an hour and a half. We're going to try to finish it at 2 hours, and then we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. So somebody asked, what is the name of the stone? This is the stone in the monument video. That's actually marble slab, granite.
Yeah, it's called Absolute Black.
Yeah, we got
that
from Home Depot. Actually, you can buy those from Home Depot.
If it was the stone in the jewelry engraving, those were agate stones.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, so the stone in the jewelry engraving video it's called agate, AGATE. You can find those on Amazon.
One question that I saw earlier that I wanted to pass by James, and I've had from customers sometimes is, what would you recommend if somebody's doing sort of high production? Is it better to do a second speedy machine, or to look at either one? Is it better to have 2 300s or 1 400, or one CO2 machine, 1 fiber machine, or 1 flex machine?
Right.
Is there a golden rule for that sort of stuff?
There's really no golden rule, but if you never need the size of a 400, and you know that the products that you're producing, maybe you're producing only small products all the time, and you're never going to need the size of a 400, then 2 300s is always going to be faster. You're going to be doubling your speed. Right. That being said, the longer and wider your machine is, the faster you're going to produce product, because you're going to be producing it at 165 inches per second going across. So the bigger your machine is on an x-axis, the faster and more you can produce in a shorter amount of time. So what we really have to do is you have to call someone like me, a consultant for you guys. Take the time to have us do the test. We have all the machines. We can do the test. If I don't have the machine, maybe you guys in the East can do it for me, or I can send it out to Austria. But we can get the test done, and we can make sure that the questions you have there are absolutely answered. But as I said, if you're doing name tags, chances are 2-300s is going to be faster than 1-400.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of questions here. So we have one from Gina. What is the minimum power laser for engraving a photo on stone? James, what would you recommend here?
The minimum power, you could do it with a 30 watt, no problem. You're going to be slowing it down a little bit, of course. But with stone, if you're not trying to go deep into stone, you're just trying to do a photograph, as you say, engraving a photo on stone. If you're just doing a photograph, you're not using a lot of power anyway. A lot of people think they need very, very high power to produce a photograph, and you don't. The low power works great on stone. So again, to answer your question, low power 30 watt would be fine.
Yeah, Frank is asking, will the CO2 laser engrave clear plastic, such as the clear plastic ornaments that the Craft Stone Chain Michael sells? Will the laser go right through that clear plastic? I'm not sure what Frank is talking about, if it's super thin. James, do you know?
I think it's probably he's probably talking about PETG or PETG or sometimes it's called PET, and it does cut. So this is a plastic you use for doing what are those called? Stenciling. So I've done a lot of this with some of my customers, making sure it works. It does work. We use a PET all the time to cut stencils with. So if that's the Frank, if that's the plastic you're looking at, yes, it cuts great. If it's a acrylic, yes, the laser will cut that. If it's a polycarbonate, not so much. Polycarbonate doesn't look so good, and the fumes that come off of it are nasty.
If I may, just to add to that as well, we also sell clear plastics, and they engrave a beautiful white color. If you're engraving on the surface of them, it won't go straight through. It'll engrave right on the surface there. It's also dependent on how much of the power you want to use.
Yeah, and also looking at Frank's question, will the laser go right through something clear? A CO2 laser sees clear material as an opaque material. It doesn't see it like me and you see it. The wavelength of the CO2, it'll hit the surface and it will cut or it will engrave, depending on what you want to do with it. But CO2 lasers and clear stuff, it does produce it as if it were a opaque material. Now, a fiber laser will shoot right through clear material. So if you have a flex machine and you're using the fiber part of it, it'll shoot right through the clear material. It sees clear stuff just like me and you do.
Yeah, I'm just showing you guys on our website. Again, this is the Canadian website. If you go to Laser Materials, Laser Paper, and go to Laser Paper Synthetic, we offer clear and white. The white is more for UV printing. The clear you guys can do for packaging. So it's a very thin piece of clear plastic that you guys can engrave. Can cut. Sorry, it's not there for engraving. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, James, do all the Speedy give the same quality?
Yes. Yeah, Speedy 100, 300, 360, 400. They're all going to engrave and cut the same. They're all going to look really, really good. That's a short answer.
So Sayed asks, what is the comparison with Trotec machines with other Chinese brands in matters of speed and power? I mean, James, do you want to take this one?
What is the comparison of Trotec machines with any other Chinese brands? Well, Trotec isn't a Chinese brand, but there are lots and lots and lots of different Chinese machines. So many different kinds. So I think we'll talk about your typical Chinese machine. It's usually it's a 100 watt glass tube. That's maybe 3 foot by 2 foot size. I mean, that's sort of typically what I see in a Chinese machine. The laser tube on a Chinese machine can only, if it's a glass tube, and we're talking of the average Chinese machine, a glass tube can't flash on and off fast enough for the gantry to come across really fast. So we have to slow the gantry down so that the laser is going flash, 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 flash. We have to slow it down, and even then, the motion system and the sort of the on and off system for the laser, they don't sync up that well generally. And so what you're left with is a photograph that doesn't look spectacular in most cases. And as I said, there's to everything, but in this case, that's sort of what I. When you're cutting, you're seeing a lot of burning because the spot size from a glass laser is going to be a lot bigger than the spot size of one of our lasers. So that spot size being so very, very tiny on a Trotec laser, you're concentrating more power into a spot. So you are doing less burning and more vaporizing, I guess you'd say. So there's the very long answer on that one.
Yeah, my recommendation, guys, any country you live in that has a Trotec distributor or a subsidiary like Canada, and you're going to go try the Chinese machine. If you have access to a Chinese machine that you're trying to look at the sample, ask the person that's doing the other laser for a sample, and then ask us to make a sample and then see the differences.
And give them the art to produce the sample. That's the best way.
Yeah.
Don't just get one of somebody's sample. Even with us, don't trust that I'm going to give you something made off the cuff if you don't give me some artwork. Send me the artwork.
We tested it already, so we have the best samples.
Tell me that, because I can spend 4 hours producing a sample that looks magnificent, and I can spend 20 minutes making a sample that looks great. And so this is going to be the same thing with any other supplier. Have them do your art, and tell them to give you a calculation as well. How long did this take? And then you're going to see exactly what it looks like. But if you get the stock sample, even with a Trotec, you get that stock sample, of course it's going to look fantastic. We're putting our best foot forward there. But go to the shop, watch the machine in action, see it. We want you to come to see us in our shop, or if you're in BC, you can have me come in the van. See it for yourself. That's the best way and the only way you're really going to make the good comparisons.
Awesome. James, do you know the specifics of the kerf cut? Like how thick the laser beam is for
Yeah, I mean, it's not a specific, but I mean, it depends on thickness of your acrylic. Let's say you're cutting 3 millimeter acrylic with a 2-inch lens on a Speedy 300. You can plan for somewhere between maybe 5 and 9 thousandths of an inch, maybe a little bit more than that. As your lens gets higher, a 4-inch lens, you're going to have a bigger kerf size. So I would say somewhere in around the 10 thou mark, but it all depends on the material that you're cutting. Again, send your material to us or to your local Trotec consultant dude like me, and I will help you out by showing you. We'll actually measure. We'll take the electric microscope. We will take pictures of it and we'll send it back to you.
James.
Poor James, I'm feeling like it's a marathon session with
no problem. This is what I do for a living.
Sorry, Miguel, you had a question?
Yeah, what is that in metric? There's a lot of people here. They don't know. What is it, 9,000 of an inch?
You got to convert it. I know Canada, US, we're inches.
Hey Siri, what is 10 thou in millimeters?
So I'm going to just answer Bartosz. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Bartosz, yeah.
Yes, that's a great question. Difference between engraving, cutting, cast, and extruded acrylics. Now, we sell both. Most of the stuff that we sell is cast. We sell like the glitter. There's a couple, the mirrored acrylic that comes in extruded. What I noticed when we engrave extruded is that it engraves more clear. and the cast acrylics engraves more white when you're in focus. James, I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh yeah. Clear. I mean, cast acrylic is made so that when we're processing it, it almost turns to like a powder. It gets really it blasts away and it powders out, and you can see the dust come out. And because of that, we're also seeing sort of a grainy powder as our finish, which when you zoom in, you can see that it's many little tiny fractures in the acrylic. With extruded acrylic, which is being pulled through a system, the plastic, when you're engraving that, it just goes clear, which it's nice for some things, but it's not ideal for laser engraving. The extruded acrylic, I find, cuts with a smoother side edge than the cast acrylic does, but the differences aren't great.
Awesome. James, we have a good question here from Joe. Which model exhaust system is affordable for Speedy 300? I live in a neighborhood with 30 feet between houses, so we're not sure if this is Canada or the US since you're in feet. But in Canada, we actually have a different exhaust. We have the Quattro exhaust. Most of the world uses the Atmos. I mean, James,
both exhausts are fantastic. So I mean, you're gonna want something that has 400 CFM with 8 to 10 inches of static pressure, and just find out which Atmos or which Quattro is going to have that. Again, the best plan is to call your local Trotec dude and find out which is suitable for that. So we're not sure if you're in Canada, we'll be using a Quattro. If you're anywhere else in the world, you'll be using an Atmos filter. Both are good for sure.
Yeah, Don put a good question of, do you require a water cooling system, I guess, or a venting air cooling system?
Yeah, I mean, the water cooling system is available on Trotec machines. Most people don't take advantage of that. On our larger wattage machines, it is a must. You have to have a water cooling system. But on the average machine, a Speedy 300, 80 watt, 120, anything less than 120 watt, you can have that as an air cooled machine. You don't need this big water pump and a water chiller with it, which cuts down on your electricity use. It cuts down on the sound of your unit. It cuts down on the space needed for the unit as well. And as far as venting, you do need to vent these lasers. They do not have a built-in fan. A lot of people think that there's some kind of a built-in fan that takes the exhaust out of the machine, but these do not have it. You need some external fan to take it out. And this fan needs to be at least 400 CFM, say on a Speedy 300, 400 CFM at 8 to 10 inches of static pressure, and it's the pressure that you need. I have some people who put a 1200 CFM fan, but the motor on it is just this tiny little thing on this inline fan, and they're wondering why their laser gets dirty. We require this high pressure venting in order to keep our lasers clean and safe from harm. And so the rule of thumb I always use is when buying an external exhaust, not one of our Quattros or Atmos, but if you're using an external exhaust, make sure it at least has 1 horsepower on the fan. On the bigger units like a Speedy 400, SP 500, things like this, we're going to have to go up to 1.5 or 2 horsepower. But make sure that fan has a beefy motor on it, not a little tiny motor. A little tiny motor won't do anything for you.
I don't know if,
sorry,
I apologize. I was just going to say, I don't know if maybe this is too much to look at the end here, but I thought it was a nice, just a general question in terms of safe environment for the machine, so the temp for the longest life of the tube, and then also maintenance costs in terms of replacing the tube. Obviously something that any Trotec user is going to have to look at.
Yeah.
Something that might not occur to you, as you sort of mentioned earlier, but the necessary temperatures to prolong the life of the machine.
Right. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I mean, they believe it's like 32 degrees, under 32 degrees Celsius ambient temperature. I don't know what that is in in American units, but and then over 15 degrees, we like to have it. Above and below that, we can't guarantee the fastness of the tube's sort of leak proofness. So in cold temperatures, I had a customer who had a Speedy 400 with the ceramic tube, put it in a shed that got down to like minus 25 with no heat, and the tube didn't make it. It was too much for the tube to handle these kind of extreme negative temperatures. I haven't seen anybody with and I think there's overheat protection on the high, but don't let it go over 32 because it's not good for your laser tubes. And it looks like Lev has this picture.
Yeah, this is actually on the website. So room temperature between 50 degrees Celsius to 25, and then relative humidity. If you guys actually go to our website and then under the knowledge section and then tips for laser users, there's lots of stuff here for maintenance, parameters, lots and lots and lots of stuff that you guys can check out that I strongly recommend. TrotecLaser.com. Okay, let's keep going with the questions. We have let's do another 5 minutes, and then I think we can call it quits.
Sure.
Okay. I just saw a good one here for a second. I get offers engraving leather book covers. How do I find if the book has PVC? MSDS not available. Don't want to kill my unit. It's hard to know if it's fake PVC or not.
Well, if it's you can tell if it's leather. Try to find an edge. Try to find an edge where it's been cut. Leather will always have fraying on the edge of your leather. So try to find out where the folds come in, where it's stitched, and look at that edge. If it's frayed, it's most likely leather. Now, if you find out it's not, it's most likely PVC. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's a lot of fake leather out there that's not PVC. Does anybody seen?
Well, I mean, what we actually ordered, what's it called? The chalkboard. So Trotec actually has a chalkboard sticker that you could like cut and glue, like it says a sticker. We sell that in Canada, chalkboard, laser cut chalkboard. So when we actually contacted the manufacturer, it was PVC. So we said, well, we can't use PVC. So they actually, I mean, we paid a little bit extra, but they changed their system and they gave us a non-PVC chalkboard. So my advice to you, if you don't have the MSDS sheet, contact the manufacturer directly and ask if it has PVC or not.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, this is a good one. Does working on higher frequency most of the time cutting acrylics can shorten a lifetime of a laser tube?
Higher frequency? No, I mean it's low frequency actually really damages laser tubes, and this is why Trotec puts a low limit on our frequencies. There are other lasers out there that have lower the ability to use lower frequencies. We chose not to use a lower frequency because it really is not good for the tube. Because how a frequency works is that we charge up the laser tube's energy. And it takes time. So this is the time it takes to charge the energy. Then we let it all go. We charge it up, let it all go. And this is frequency. So the slower that we build this balloon of energy, the more energy that builds up inside the tube, giving us possible tube damage. So we put a low limit on this frequency so that we're never loading up the tube with too much energy. I guess that's a good example. High limits, no.
There was one I saw earlier, Lev, that's unfortunately disappeared, but I wanted to ask James about necessary voltage as it pertains to wattage in your machine. So what sort of voltage you should have available in your workspace and how you can for that for a bigger machine. In
Europe and Asia and Africa and places like this, they use 220 volts for everything. So our machines, we can switch them between 110 and 220 volts. Ask your tech or your salesperson for this. In Canada and the US, we use 110 volts, and I think Mexico too uses 110 volts for our stuff. So anything up to an 80-watt laser uses 110 volts. 220 or 120 watt machine uses 220 volts, and then our 200 watts uses three-phase power, and then the 400 uses some crazy huge amount of voltage. But if we're talking the average machine, it all depends on what your local voltage is. It's usually consistent with your local house voltage. Sometimes we need in Canada and the US, we need a 20 amp service because the high rating on some of the speedies is 16 amps, which is going to be above your 15 amp rating for a regular household plug. But a 20 amp plug would work great for that.
Okay, just a few more questions, guys. We gotta call it. We gotta give James a break. James, is placing of substrates in specific locations on bed area extend a better life of the tube? Distance from primary mirror.
No.
Put it on the right hand side of the laser.
The mirrors don't take the brunt of it. The tube it's not going to. It's some specific location. The better life of the tube. No, the tube is going to flash on and off whether it's in one area or the other. It doesn't really matter where it is. Trotec lasers stay aligned, which means all of the mirrors and lenses that we need, they stay aligned very well because we build these things like tanks. They are very, very, very heavy and super sturdy construction. So the alignment of the laser, the laser focus and beam path is very, very stable. So engraving on one side of the table or the other, it doesn't really matter. We're going to use the same power in either case. Quick question: what is the max frequency you would use on acrylic safely? I mean, generally, I'm on acrylic. I'm using 2,500 hertz. I generally don't change the frequency when cutting acrylic. I like my 2,500 hertz. Maybe there's other people who do a lot of acrylic out there who could answer this question a little better. But I stick to my 2,500 hertz for acrylic.
I mean, that's 2 hours there left. Did you want to? Oh,
Lev is he's turned into his
at 2 hours he turned into a pumpkin.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, I think.
Oh, it's two Levs.
Oh no! Is he gonna get it?
I think that's our internet telling us, like, okay, guys, this is enough. Yeah, I think we'll call it quits now. Sorry, guys, we can't answer any more questions, but because of this amazing kind of energy collaboration worldwide, we'll definitely do more of these, and then we'll probably make them public. This video won't be public. If you have the link, you can watch it over and over again, but it won't be public. But watch out for laser jam sessions in the future. And we hope to get Austria involved, like the engineers and the great people at Austria and our other locations, our other Trotec locations across the world, do some kind of collaboration with them and answer more questions. This was great. Big thank you to James, Miguel, and Don, everyone that watched from around the world. Thank you so much. You guys are great. See you guys next time.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.